We are going to go over today just some of the new features of your Zoom account and particularly highlight some of those things you might be able to use for security. So once you are logged in to your Zoom account, you can go into settings. And the first thing that you're going to see in settings is the waiting room, which a lot of these features are on by default. So the waiting room is on by default. There's a couple of things now you can do to customize your waiting room. So the first thing I'm going to show you is editing options. Who should go into the waiting room? You can select everyone except for people in our domain, in our account, which might be kind of tricky because it's hard to tell what students will exactly be using. You can also allow people who are not in our account and not a part of the allowed domains. So what that means is that I could sit here and I could say users at jeffersonunion.net or at juhsd.net, whatever the students might be using. The students are not using either their jeffersonunion.net account or their at juhsd.net account for their Zoom. They will have to go into the waiting room, but you should be able to kind of check out and see who's in there or who's not. Another thing you can do is you can actually customize your waiting room. So you can add a photo, change what the meeting topic is, change this message here to say, welcome, I'll be here to let you in soon, whatever kind of personalized message you would like to display there. And that'll be what students see when they first click on to the Zoom and they're waiting for you to actually let them into class. So a few other just kind of safety features. You'll notice that it's already set to both require a passcode when scheduling new meetings and that it'll actually include the passcode in the invite link. So that's why even though there is a passcode, the students don't have to take that extra step to actually put in the passcode. It's a security measure. If students are sharing the invite link, they're also sharing the passcode link. So it's not really going to help for like Zoom bombing. That is a lot better and more assured with the waiting room feature, but those features are turned on. A few other types that you can kind of go to control your Zoom is your personal meeting ID is something that you can use consistently. Though Zoom does recommend for Zoom bombing to generate a new meeting ID for new meetings or at least for different classes. Some other basic things that might help with some security is you can actually turn off the chat entirely. The default is to have it on. But you can turn it off. If you're having issues with students putting things in the chat you don't like and you don't really need it for any other particular instructional purpose, you can turn it off entirely. If you choose to keep the chat on, one nice feature is that you can actually prevent participants from saving the chat. The default is, unless you click this, that they would be able to save that chat. I would highly recommend turning this one off. I can't really see a reason why you would need instructionally to keep it on, but to not allow them to send private messages to another participant, because then you would not be able to see that. You can only see what private messages were sent to you, not what students sent amongst themselves. Make sure that auto saving the chat is turned on so that you can have a record of it after the meeting is over. It's a default setting to disable students from being able to file transfer in the chat, and that's like sending some kind of document or picture. It's best to leave that one off. This is one of the new features to our pro accounts where you can turn off the ability to, or turn on and off the ability to co-host. And to turn on polls. That is also a nice new feature that we have. The default is to have it off, but if you go into these settings, you can turn that on. Lastly, I would say screen sharing, making sure that it's host only. You can always change this later, and I'll show you in just a second how you might be able to do that. But it's best to have it defaulted so that only you can share your screen, so that students aren't kind of taking over your ability to do that. Here's some just features about the whiteboards, non-verbal feedback, the little emojis that they can kind of put on to react to something that you're saying. Another default setting that I definitely recommend leaving off would be allowing participants to rename themselves. Some of the issues that are happening in, misbehavior or Zoom bombing is that participants will rename themselves to another name of a student in the class, and they can actually get them in trouble by putting inappropriate things in the chat and such. So definitely want to make sure to leave that feature off. So let's say you've started your meeting, and I've started a meeting over here. I actually have somebody in my waiting room, my husband in this case, and say that as I'm sitting here, I realize, oh crap, I forgot to set one of my settings. You have a button right here in your Zoom that actually allows you to manage a lot of these security features right from the meeting, even as it's already started. So if you click this, you can allow other participants to share the screen. I had it selected to be off, but if I won't change my mind during the meeting, I can just click that, and now other participants are able to share their screen. If I want them to be able to use the chat or rename themselves, I can do that all here. This is also where if you're in a rush, you can remove a participant, and I'll show that feature in just a moment. This is also where you can lock the meeting. This is kind of tricky. You have to make sure all of your students are in your classroom and that you're not worried about somebody's connection dropping off and then them having to rejoin, because once you lock the meeting, nobody will be able to join. So if you know that you have all your students there, you can consider that a feature that'll protect from Zoom bombs, but it can be kind of tricky unless you have all your students accounted for. So I'm going to go ahead and let my participant into the waiting room. And so now Jose is a part of the waiting room, and I actually have it set so that everybody's muted upon entry. Because I'm the host, I can both unmute and mute Jose. I can also do a couple of different features here. I can ask him to start his video. I can make him either the host or the co-host. I can allow him to record. I can rename him. I can put him back in the waiting room if I'm having some issues, and I can remove him completely. So there's actually two ways that you can remove a participant, especially if it is the Zoom bomber. You can do it right here through the participants list, or again, as I mentioned in security, if I click remove participants, it'll bring up my list and it'll just say remove in red right next to that, and I can do that. And it'll give me a little warning sign, but I can say okay, and then Jose is gone. Just a quick note about Zoom bombs. Often what was happening is that participants in your meeting or teachers themselves were posting the meeting IDs in a place that was public and other people could get access to it. What's likely happening these days is that students are sharing it with students that either aren't in your class or people that don't attend the school. So just really making sure that you're using some of these features so that the students that are coming into your class are the ones that you're expecting. So thank you.